Yeah, having flown for 27 years and experienced this on a daily operational basis, I know how painful it can be. But following on from, I guess, the interest in the issues we've just talked about, also another part of my daily life when I was flying was making darn sure that the operation was safe at every part of the journey. And what I'd like to touch on here is a little bit more about the latest safety statistics we have from IATA. And then we're going to move on to just a little update on where we were with the IATA safety strategy, which I first introduced on Global Media Day about 18 months ago, before touching on, I think one of our biggest initiatives at the moment is moving IOSA to a risk-based environment. When we look at the 2022 half-year accident rate, oh my gosh, so this is to the end of June. We're now in December, so please bear in mind that these are the figures as assessed by Accident Classification Task Force following the data that we could analyse up to the end of June. There's a little bit of a change from where we were there to where we are now, and unfortunately that's sort of just the way the cookie crumbles. What I'd like to point out here, though, is when we were looking at the half-year figures, they were pretty much on par to where we were full year of 2021. The one thing I would suggest is that actually we have continued to see an expansion of traffic over the last 6 months to a year, and as a consequence, actually the rate has reduced as a result. I think also I'd like to really point out, and again we'll come on to this when it comes to talking about IOSA, is where IATA member accidents have continued to show a lower trend than aviation industry as a whole. And this is down very much to all the work that we are doing within OSS, within the safety department, but particularly how we manage the IATA operational safety audit and the evolution of such to continue to drive that down. When we're looking at accident rate per region of operator, this is the risk per million flights. And as you can see, out of all the regions, we've had generally a decline in the number of accidents, although there's a couple of outliers there. And in particular, you'll see from this side that the Latin American region and the Caribbean is showing a four-fold increase at the mid-year point. And why I have to be really, really clear about this mid-year point, as more and more information comes into IATA through accident investigations, sometimes these figures, although they initially look high, time to trend into, right, okay, this wasn't actually meeting the classification criteria as we score it within IATA. And just to be really clear what those criteria are, it means that we're looking at 4 things to have happened to determine whether it's an accident. First and foremost, that there are people on board for the intention of flight. Secondly, that it is a commercial flight, whether that's a scheduled, chartered, or a cargo flight. We're not looking at the executive market. We're not looking at test flights. We're not looking at maintenance flights. We're looking at scheduled, chartered, and cargo flights. The third thing is that the weight of the aircraft has to be over 5,700 kilograms. That's pretty standard nomenclature with commercial air transport. And the final thing is that it has to have sustained major damage, either as a consequence of a 1 million loss or 10% of the value of the aircraft. So all of those criteria are wrapped into the figures when we're processing the accident rate per region. The other 2 areas, there was one event in Middle East and North Africa, and a couple of events in Asia which has shown the trend in the wrong direction. What I would like to highlight just in the bottom left-hand corner here is if we look at the figures versus World and IATA members, half year 2022, IATA members are trending at 50% of what the world traffic is demonstrating. And as you can see, if you're looking at 2021, it's below where we were in 2021. And the rolling 5-year average between 2017 and 2021, again, it's below where we were at the mid-year point. We'll see how this folds into the full-year figures, which we've then put into our accident report at the end of the year. When we're looking at figures, I think first and foremost, we've got to be super proud of aviation as a whole. I mean, aviation is the longest transport, ultra-safe industry out there. I mean, the number of events that occur related to the amount of transport that and people that are sort of flown year on year continues to reduce. And, you know, we've just gone back to 2013, but actually if you took this back, we'll go back to Kitty Hawk days, Nick. If you take it back, you know, 40, 50, 60 years, that rate continues to come down. And that's because of the excellent work that is being done within aviation on a daily basis to identify, manage, and mitigate risks. What again I'd like to point out is that we see that there is a difference in performance between the blue solid and dotted line, which is the IATA member and the IOSA carriers, versus the non-IATA members and the non-IOSA carriers, which are in amber. I think, you know, this is something that we continue to highlight, but actually we don't want to rest on our laurels. And when we come to talking about risk-based IOSA, it's about continually driving down that rate and differentiating what it means to be a member of the IOSA program and a member of IATA. So we've always been focused on this. It's very difficult to talk about accidents on a daily, monthly, or even a yearly basis because we have blips. It's not like we can expect 1 month to be the same as the other, so we're trying to find a way of comparing how performance is relating to safety on a regular basis, and we do this by a 5-year rolling average to make sure that we're continually focused on this reduction in the all-accident rate. To ensure that we do this, we need to develop the mechanism to frame what we're looking to do within the safety arena. And for this, we have the IATA safety strategy. A lot of those big wins have already been achieved. A lot of the automation that we have in aircraft now have had huge benefits for flight safety, whether that's ground proximity warning systems, mid-air collision systems. They have been immense. So actually, there aren't so many of the big wins out there. There are more of those marginal gains that I very much picked up from the old Sky team with Dave Brailsford. We've got to look at where there are those marginal opportunities to continue to improve safety performance. And we're doing that through a 3-pillar strategy. I'm going to talk a little bit more on the safety leadership because when I last spoke to you, it was just a concept, and I'm really delighted that it's provided a bit of traction now. The safety risk is around the safety risk management framework that we have developed since the beginning of COVID, and that's accessible on IATA.org, where we are collating industry's risks and prioritize them to determine where IATA can best support industry manage the risks that are out there. And finally, it's great to be able to talk about risk and managing and mitigating risks, but if we're not communicating this across the whole of the aviation industry, a lot of this is lost. So we want to make sure that the risks from one airline are fed into the safety risk management framework so that other airlines who are maybe changing their operation, who are a new operator or whatever, can see what the risks are out there, how other people have managed them, take note of our safety risk assessments and determine what they want to do about it. So, Safety Leadership Charter. Safety leadership and embedding a safety culture begins at the top. Okay? Whatever the CEO sets out as their ambition on safety is the lead to filter through that organisation to those frontline workers. And where's the benefit of that? Well, first and foremost, accident investigation reports have identified that safety leadership is critical to a safe operation. Secondly, it's about every safety critical worker knowing that they have a skin in the game but even people who are sitting in the office, that they have a role to play. If they see anything, even if it's outside their area of expertise, they can put their hand up and report. And this is what this is all about, making sure that we're getting greater granularity in the events that are taking place that may not be captured by data sources, to ensure that actually with this greater understanding of where those risks lie and how we need to manage them, we can be more informed about what target actions need to take place. So we've been delighted to sort of get industry to support us developing these 8 guiding principles, and we are now in the process of rolling this out as a safety leadership charter which gets the buy-in of CEOs. And I'm really delighted through our safety talks, we have a number of CEOs that have already expressed how important safety leadership is to them. You can see that on the website, but just a little snippet if we can play the video. Safety culture is critical for our industry. Safety leadership has been as being the #1 driver for a positive safety culture within an organization.
Safety leadership, without any doubt, is vital. Culture is an intangible and a crucial element of SMS.
We need to focus on reinforcing safety culture through practices of safety leadership and ensuring that foundational practices that have enhanced global aviation safety are strengthened and promoted.
Safety is the core value of our corporate culture. Our managers are expected to be role models for fostering safety awareness and creating an environment where all employees not only feel responsible for the issue, but also secure enough to speak up if necessary.
Safety today does not guarantee safety tomorrow. For our future growth, we will need to continue to innovate. But more importantly, we must maintain our commitment to safety.
Ensuring safe operations is not just a tick box exercise. It requires organizations to have the right culture and mindset. Building this culture starts with leaders and managers demonstrating their commitment to safety through their decisions and their actions every single day.
IATA guiding principles are very strong in terms of safety leadership, safety culture and safety management. And I fully support these guiding principles, and I encourage you to work together to ensure that aviation continues to be one of the safest industries in the world.
Just a few starting snippets of some of the CEOs that have signed up for what we're looking to deliver in the safety leadership. As I say, more can be found on IATA.org. So just to summarise the strategy before we get into the risk-based IOSA, it's about making sure that we set the right tone. Really important at this point where there's shortage of skilled workers and we need to bring in new talent that immediately feed into that culture of an organisation. We need to develop that safety risk picture so we're more informed about the risks out there and how we're going to prioritise our actions around them. And we need to make sure that we're communicating these widely so that everybody understands where the issues lie and where there are future challenges that can be fed into the safety risk management framework. So risk-based IOSA, this is a game changer. This is a game changer. I came from a UK CAA where we had previously done compliance and moved into a performance-based oversight audit program. When I've come to IATA, it was something that I was really keen to see us do with IOSA, from moving away from a program that is focused on going into an airline and ticking 960 boxes to determine whether an airline has complied with 960 plus IOSA standards and recommended practices, to a conversation where we're focusing on the risks that is most focused on the airline and not the industry as a whole. So what we're looking at with IOSA and risk-based IOSA in its rollout over the next couple of years, we're not going into every airline and saying, right, can we just make sure that you're still compliant with these 960 plus boxes? We will understand the operation, we will understand the challenges that each airline has with their operation and have a tailored audit scope that focuses on the risks of that operator. We want to make sure that the assessment is based on safety conversations. So I see that you're operating, for example, into a mountainous area. Show me how you're managing the risks with high terrain on the approach into this airport. That's the sort of conversation we'll be having. And so I think that's the second thing, is making sure that you're speaking to people in a more sort of conversational way, rather than just saying, show me in your manual where you comply with this. Auditors need to change their mindset. We need an auditor cohort that can go in and have these conversations. In the UK CAA, a lot of people found it a challenge. So I think one of the biggest things that we're focused on at the moment is when we bring in the risk-based audits and we bring in the auditors to deliver those audits, they are focused around that safety performance. The safety insights, I think, is completing the circle. So what are we getting out of these audits that we can feed into our safety risk work, our safety risk management framework, to validate what we are seeing from a data in reports and other information streams, to make sure that we validate that we're focusing on the right things and know what an effective outcome would be. And finally, this is, I guess, sounding a bit like this is all for IATA. Well, actually, all of this process ends with an enhanced audit report. We've done 5 trial audits, and this is the key thing, I would say, that we're hearing back from those airlines, is there is texture and granularity in the report, which gives them the opportunity to go back into their operation and examine some areas which they haven't actually looked at in some time. And I think one of the ways that this was captured was, you know, when we're running the operation and we're under the pressures of a day, we're always focused in this groupthink environment, and you're taking us out of that. Just looking at the audit scoping, before we'd have all the 960 ISARPs, we're now prioritising our standards and recommended practices in 2 ways. Firstly, from an industry perspective. Where are we seeing accidents occurring? If you're looking back at the accident rates that I showed you earlier, there were a number of occurrences of runway excursion. And actually, we've already identified this as an issue we need to work on, and we're doing a real focused piece of work on unstable approaches. So where are the events occurring? Where are the areas where people are finding it difficult to conform with the standards and the recommended practices, and what do we do about that? The framework is the GSRMF, and then also what's really, really important is the people in the room. Okay, can we validate through our subject matter experts where we've got the right people in the room validating what we're seeing? And then we take it down to operator level. We want to understand if the operator has had any events. We want to understand what their audit history has been in the past and whether those safety conversations we've had previously have led to a number of items being addressed. And we need to make sure, as I mentioned about mountainous terrain, where is the operator operating? And is it that they need to apply different practices to one part of operation or another? Final slide before the opportunity for questions. So we're ramping up quickly. We've done our trial audits, 2023. The boss has given us 25 to run, and we will do that. I think in 2024, we want to go above the 100 to make sure that we bring in risk-based IOSA and upskill our own auditor pool to be able to deliver these so that by 2025, all audits done under IOSA are under the risk-based approach. And that is going to start to show some very, very significant changes in the intelligence that we gather from the audits. That's all from me. Thank you very much. Happy to take any questions.
Yep, I'd like to open the floor to questions. Yep, please. The mic's not working. Someone's just bringing you a mic. It's just coming. Sorry, yeah. Gentleman.
Thanks. Bruno Trevidic, Les Echos. You might be expecting this question, I guess. How would you cope with the Russian airlines Are they still full members of IATA, and how do you do to apply all those principles to this new black hole, which has become Russia in terms of airline safety and security?
So at this point in time, we can't audit in Russia. So all of the IOSA members are suspended from the registry. Yes. That is sort of something that we are working on, I guess, as events unfold. We would prefer them to remain in the family, so that actually when things do get back to some form of normality, they are still part of the program. But it's a work in progress.
Over here. Thanks much.
Hello.
Hi.
This is Andreas Schulz from freelance from Germany. Mark, as far as fatigue is concerned, this was a big issue in the US a couple of years ago. How is the current status looking if you look to the US and to Europe especially?
Fatigue is something that we continue to monitor, and we have a fatigue management task force sitting under our safety group. The indicators are it's no worse than it was if it was determined to be worse, and I know that a number of stakeholders believe that it has deteriorated, but it's no worse than it was before COVID. And actually, I personally believe it was being very effectively monitored and managed at that point. So I'm not seeing any blip on fatigue since COVID.
Thank you, Mark. I think
Okay.
that's all the questions. Mark will be around later if anybody's got any further questions.